Man in a Lost World. Great part of the song. Love that whole song anyway. Sting is a genius. I'm just going to go out there and on a limb and go ahead and tell everybody that because that is truly my opinion. Needless to say, the name of this particular show is called When Change Sneaks Up on You. And kind of wanted to briefly talk about a couple things that have been going on with me lately that I think kind of apply in this general direction. I'm just free-flowing with this. No notes, no nothing. Just so, I don't know, forgive me if this show sucks, or maybe it's one of my better ones. Who really knows, right? And so we're going to find out and let the audience decide, as they say. So let's cover the basics, or the business, as I like to call it. Please click on the subscribe button. I had a friend of mine from the grocery store, Lynn. She was asking me, like, if you click the subscribe button, do you have to make a password or anything weird like that? And no, I think it does like it when you log into YouTube, so it might fight you a little on that one. So I apologize. Maybe you do need to log into YouTube with some sort of account, maybe a Google account or some sort of email account. So if it makes it difficult for you to subscribe and you don't want to, feel free not to. It's okay. But if you can find it in your heart to click that subscribe button, it's always appreciated on my part. It's neat to see that there are people that are paying attention. And you can also set up subscription notifications. So if I put out a new video, you'll get an email. And you can also very easily turn that off. And if you would like some help on how to do that, or if you've got questions, queries, comments, anything along those lines, feel free to send me an email at spiritradiodanstyle@gmail.com. So that's okay. That's the business, right? Okay, so a lot's been going on lately in my crazy world. Probably one to touch base because this was a huge deal in the news, and I don't want to talk a whole lot about it, but it certainly affected me, and it majorly affected me for that matter. The death of Robin Williams was huge for me. First off, Good Morning Vietnam to start with was a major part of me wanting to get into radio. Like, that movie played a major role. Unfortunately, I'd say Howard Stern probably also was significant in that whole process. He hasn't died yet, and I'm sure some people will be happy when that day comes. But needless to say, Robin Williams' Good Morning Vietnam was huge. And he is, in my opinion, in many of people's opinions, I'm not alone on this one, probably one of the most talented comedians ever. And one of the ways I want to qualify that is that frequently when he would do live performances, people would ask him, or he would ask people, I should say, how long am I going to be on stage? How long do you want me up there? And they would say, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour, whatever. Whatever time they came up with, he'd say, okay, good. And that's what he would go up and do. He didn't make bits. He didn't come up with material. He just went up and talked. He was like, as some radio people I've heard recently have described him as, stream of consciousness, and I like it. I don't normally like to say what other people say, especially on the radio. It's just retarded, but whatever. But his stream of consciousness was truly amazing. The guy could just yammer on for as long as you wanted to, turn it off, and boom, he was done. And he was hysterically funny, in my opinion. So that was a big loss, certainly in the comedic sense, but also what really touched me, I think, the most, on top of the fact that I really cared about the guy as an actor and work he did. One of my favorite movies ever is What Dreams May Come. Absolutely love that movie. I've talked about it in a few shows, and I think it is one of the best depictions of what happens in the afterlife for any movie that's ever been made. I think it's amazing. And ironically, suicide was a part of that movie, and he and his son, basically, had to go get his mother, or his wife at the time, from hell, because she committed suicide. And it wasn't that she went to legitimate hell like we hear about, but it was more a place where you're completely detached from reality, from the fact that you're dead, from the fact that you're a part of Creator's world, that you have completely isolated yourself from what has really happened and believe the illusion that you're living. That's why I thought the movie was so amazing, because it really speaks to what I believe is a lot more true to the God I believe in. I don't know how else to say that. So again, I just thought it was really hard knowing that this man was so depressed and going through this, and he had the prognosis that he had. I can't even remember the disease now; it's escaping me, but it really doesn't matter. Parkinson's. There we go. And that supposedly can help affect your level of happiness. He was supposedly having some financial problems, which I know for a lot of people, it's like, this guy's rich. Yes, he was, and I'm not going to try to justify how he was having struggles in that regard. He had more money than most of us will ever see in our entire lives. And so it's just the fact that this man got so low and so bummed in his own right that he was able to take his life in the way that it's been described. It's just amazing. I've been in some extremely lows in my life, and I've certainly contemplated some horrible acts and walked through it. One of them was pretty severe, but I had a couple really strong things that helped pull me through it, and it's been well over 13 years, 12, 13, 14 years since I've felt that way since. It's the time of my life. It's one of those things where no matter how bad things get, I can always look back at that time and go, at least I'm not there. And so it really crushes me that this individual really had to go through just the darkness he was in, the pain, the hurt you feel. You know, people like talk about how selfish it is when you commit suicide, and it's like, that's not what you're thinking about when you're in the middle of it all. Like, you don't care about that. In fact, if someone said that to you when you were suicidal, it might very well be enough to push you over the edge, because that's just like one more failure in your life that you're looking at. You are so bummed that anything that just resembles a failure just makes it worse. It just makes you feel even crappier about who you are. And that's really where it's just a spiral. It's just bad thoughts upon bad thoughts upon bad thoughts, and you just spiral down. And it's really, really, really hard to get yourself out of it once you're finally there. So again, that was a big, big aspect of what's going on. Some of the other crazy things, I've had a couple relationships with friends that have gone in strange directions, to say the least. One of them's someone I work with at a coffee shop. Another's a customer friend of mine. And, you know, just issues are going on right now where I'm kind of like not real happy with the relationships, the friendships, whatever. And I've sort of backed away and trying to sort of make light or make sense of everything that's going on in that regard. Work's been pretty crazy, but crazy good. Like, it's been all right there. I'm not going to, I mean, it's absolutely crazy. It's like I walk into a tornado and then I look at my watch and it's like time to go, and I step out of the tornado and the tornado's just waiting for me the next day. It's just amazing. Like, I step into it and I seriously lose track of time, and it's like, oh crap, I got to go to lunch. Oh crap, it's time to go home. Oh wow, it's already tomorrow. So it's that's been kind of fun and crazy at the same time. Life is just flying by right now. I've also talked about how I'm involved in this character development class, and I've been stressing like mad over yesterday's class because there's an accent that I was supposed to be able to try to learn. She gave me a character, and it's my name spelled backwards, and it is... Nad is the name, which is really funny because one of the characters kept saying, "So is that like gonad?" You know, and I'm just laughing because it's like, yes, no, I've heard that many times. But the character is supposed to be a Swedish broadcaster, at least initially. And I was trying to study. I was like listening to Swedish people for like a week and a half, right? Just desperately praying that I could come up with this accent and make it work. You know, I've got a couple crappy accents I can do, but the Swedish one, after all is said and done, I cannot do it. It's a little sing-songy. It's kind of subtle. I mean, I could do words, but to stay in the accent, to do sentences, Lord, it's not going to happen. So I was stressing about it, and I finally got in there, and I got in there a little early, coincidentally, and the teacher was working with me and basically let me go down a different path with the character. And I've already got kind of a broadcast character anyway, so we didn't really want to overdo that aspect. I mean, you know, the voice is kind of my thing, right? I did radio and all that, right? So obviously I'm aware of that part, and I know how to play with that. And I'm doing this to help with voiceover and voice acting, so it's all tied together, right? It's not a big deal. But I didn't want to do another broadcaster kind of voice. So she let me kind of do this weird sort of snobby, like I'm still working on like getting it down, but a little bit higher pitched. It's kind of a French accent that I'm like speaking with my like lips almost puckered and not really moving them. It's very strange and very uncomfortable. But she's like really magical in kind of how she pushes us. And so, I'm in this block, like I'm trying to move through this block and I'm really uncomfortable and I'm up on stage and I'm like blushing and sweating because it's just so uncomfortable for me. But I was pushing through it and it was kind of like, it was pretty cool, right? It was like a victory unto itself. Again, the name of this is when change sneaks up on you, right? So all these things are kind of going on, and, my final performance is next week, right? So I'm a little nervous. Got one more class, and then my final performance is a week from tomorrow on Saturday the 23rd. For those of you that are Facebook friends, it's on my Facebook page. I've got all the information there. Feel free to join if you would like, but if not, it's not a big deal. So just a lot of crazy things have been going on in my world. Certainly someone significant to me. We've had some really interesting moments, if you will, but at the same time, there's this weird distance too. So I'm not 100% sure what's going on. I feel pretty strongly that I do know what's going on, but it's not discussed. It's not talked about. It is what it is. And it's like every time I feel like I'm closer to this person, they kind of take a couple steps away from me. So, whatever. Again, change is sneaking up on me. So I'm sitting here and I'm kind of looking at all these things in my life. And this is really the point of this entire program today is these are those moments where you stop for a moment and you kind of look back and you're like, wow, I've got a lot of stuff going on, like a lot of things happening. There's a lot of emotions occurring inside of me. There's a lot of change. There's relationships that are falling apart. There's relationships that are maybe changing in good ways. Work's kind of happening. I've got this extracurricular stuff that's kind of flowing and moving, and I've got a lot of movement in my life in a very cool direction for the most part. And like I said, there's aspects of it that are, I don't want to say crumbling, but are sort of losing the spotlight that they once held. And these are moments where a lot of people actually might get upset. They're like, I can't believe I'm not close friends with so-and-so, or I can't believe I'm not still doing such and such, or I'm not. This is one of those moments where you look at it and you're like, wow, I'm going through change. Life is happening, life is changing, and life is all about change. So these are the times where you really have to look back on it and go, okay, so I'm in this tunnel, I'm in this, the womb of life, the womb of change, if you will, and you're heading through it, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Trust me, it's not a train, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and you're going to emerge a different you. You're going to emerge a person that has different perspectives, different understandings, different focus, different relationships. And maybe in my case, when I get through this light, maybe some of these friendships kind of come back into my world and I become close to these people again, but now it's altered, it's different. It's like, it's never going to be what it was, but it will be something, and it can very well be cool. And that can be, in the case of the friends that I'm not real close to right now, maybe it's just we're a little more on the platonic side. I'm not too close. Maybe in the side of the other things, maybe it's a little more serious, like maybe all of a sudden like changes are occurring in life and it's like, oh my God, there's a place for me in this person's life. That's fantastic. So again, it's one of those things where I kind of am sharing all this, not because I think anyone gives a crap what I'm going through in my life, but more because I think it's a great example of kind of when you're caught up in it, where you're in the storm, where you're in the hurricane, and it's all spinning around you, and there's bits of trees, and there's cows flying in the air. I know, it's just a good visual from the movie Twister. I thought it was hilarious. But when that's happening, those are the good times to really stop and go, okay, hang on. Let's get perspective. Let's meditate on this. Let's spend a little time and really try to come to terms with what's going on in my life. And then take the next step forward and enjoy the direction, and know that you're going through these changes, that everything does work out in the end for the best. It's sometimes a little crazy when you're going through it, but once you get through it and you can kind of look back through the fog, if you will, because that's kind of what change is, right? It's like walking through fog. You can't see real well, but eventually you're going to come to that clearing and you'll be like, oh, okay, I can see. It's clear now. So this is what I'm going through in my world, and this is what I want to remind you, because I know I'm not the only one going through it. I know I'm not the only one that's going through crazy changes in their lives. So this is one of those times where it's good to kind of take stock in what you have, look at what's working, look at what's not working, and then really kind of make choices about what kind of life you wish to have going forward. And that is exactly what I'm doing at this point. So again, I'm hoping this helps. I'm hoping I'm offering something that you can maybe relate to in some way, shape, or form, because that's really, that's the whole point of doing all this. And again, it's been weird for me lately, so I just kind of wanted to get back on the microphone and do something. I did all the chakra shows, and that was like easy, kind of just because I knew I had to do 1, then 2, then 3. But now it's like, all right, we got to get back into doing some legitimate stuff, or whatever, just being creative and coming up with God knows what. So here's where I'm at, and sometimes change just sneaks up on you, and you need to acknowledge it. You need to maybe bow or curtsy or whatever the hell you do, and then kind of move forward. Let it be a part of you, and let yourself grow. Let yourself become this new person. A friend of mine was showing pictures of the butterfly transforming, or the caterpillar transforming. I want to say, she said pupate because I made fun of that word. And then I don't know if it's a cocoon or sarcophagus, or I forget the proper name for that whole thing. So I'm sure there's people out there that are like, oh, it's called a blah, blah, blah. Okay, whatever that word is, that's what I meant to say. But it's kind of like that's what's happening when you're going through change. You're sort of in that crazy phase. You don't really know what's going on. You're locked up. It's foggy. It's dark, whatever. And then, boom, suddenly the lights turn on, and there you go. So, Dan Radio Style, hoping it makes a difference in your world. And please contact me, especially if you like this kind of stuff. And subscribe, too, please. But contact me if you've got any questions, comments, queries, any of the nonsense that comes with emails at spiritradiodanstyle@gmail.com. Thank you so much for joining me. Hopefully this helped out, I don't know, a little at least. Hopefully a lot. That would be groovy. And we'll do some more shows soon. Have a good one.